So ladies and gentlemen, Jessica Dugas is about to come on, talking about supercharging your spiritual growth through relationships. And we're going to have a lot of fun diving into joy, into expansion, being your greatest possible self in all areas of life. This woman is just trans-dimensional, like all kinds of different dimensions. And we'll dive into all that great stuff. Before we get into that, though, I'm talking to you because you're becoming your greatest possible self. In particular, showed up here and now, today. Whatever day it is, you're listening to this, you're watching live or replay, whatever the case might be, you're tuning in and you're choosing to become your greatest possible self. So number one, I acknowledge you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the journey of growth. I appreciate you and the work that you're doing. Whether you feel like you're moving mountains and this badass light worker changing lives, or if you are just on the journey and you're taking one step at a time and every day you do your best to do your habits and take those next steps wherever you're at. Thank you for being on the journey. Thank you for sharing your gifts with the world, whatever capacity, whatever level that you're at. There's no right or wrong. There's no better or worse. It is what it is, and just be grateful. Okay? Thank you for being here. Next up is the iTunes review of the week. Let's see who it's by this week. It is by David Shahade, who says, Chris is fantastic. The first time I listened to Chris, I knew he is the real deal. He will inspire you to move up higher on the ladder of life wherever you are, as long as you have the desire to learn. And thank you, Chris, for the great work. David, thank you so much for that review. If you want to give us a review, get a chance to get shouted out on a future 12-hour live stream, go to beergps.com/iTunes or search Greatest Possible Self on the Apple Podcast Store and give us a review. Let us know what you love, what you want to see more of, how we can improve the show for you. Thank you in advance for doing that, for sharing that greatness with us and helping us grow into our GPS. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to introduce Jessica in just a second here. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes. This is going to be a blast of a conversation. Jessica's been on before, and she's just one of those like big encouragers for people to be their greatest possible selves. She has a ton of wisdom, a ton of experience, and she is really guiding people in their spirituality, awakening, and being their GPS. So stick around till the end, because one of these ideas, one of the things that we talk about, has the power to change everything for you. Jessica Dugas is an intuitive mentor, energy practitioner, international best-selling author, and host of The Breakthrough Show, a panel-style talk show going into its 4th season in 2020, and a creator of the brand new Project Joy podcast, giving you a triple shot of good vibes on your Monday morning. She's passionate about helping women entrepreneurs and all women empower themselves to live their lives with less stress and more joy. She is a multi-passionate entrepreneur, bringing all her coaching skills, healing modalities, authentic intuition, holistic lifestyle choices, and love of the moon to her Illuminate Your Spirit community, collective, and private clients. Outside of her business, Jessica is a wife and a homeschooling mom of 6 beautiful children, enjoying many hobbies while living a plant-based lifestyle. And she is here to rock the house with us today. Jessica, are you ready to bring it?
I'm so ready, Chris.
We are bringing it now, Jessica. Thank you for being here. I love your background, just the awakening that's going on, the spirituality, the nature. It's just beautiful. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on for the second time, number 2, and we're in 2020. So the 2 is going on.
There's some alignment here, Jessica. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Awesome. We're going to dive right in today to authoring your legacy. Jessica, what does that mean to you, authoring your legacy?
Oh my gosh. I think it means just making it so, oh my gosh. It goes with my word that I chose for this year. Okay. So my word for this year was intentional.
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough for me to just use the word intention, because I set intentions all the time, but more of an action word, like making the choices in this moment right now that are going to, are the things that I'm doing right now aligning with what I want for my life in the future, and the future that I want to leave my children and the rest of the world. And so I think that really goes into that. Well, it's about, making the right choices for yourself in the moment. And I think some people hear that and are like, well, does that mean that I can't play a game of Uno with my kids because that doesn't align with the future? No, because you're making the informed choice of, I'm going to have fun right now. Yep. I'm going to ultimately we know that having fun
Mm.
and resting and all of those things are good choices for ourselves in a very physical sense. And so I think any choices that you're making right now, as long as they're aligning with what you want for your future, that's how you create your
Mm.
legacy. That's what that means.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear that the balance is important for you, especially like the joy, the fun, the play, to invest in that, to make choices, to be intentional about how am I playing, how am I experiencing joy, as well as how am I working, how am I serving, how am I
Right.
making an impact in my clients' lives, in my community. How am I showing up for my family? How am I being the role model for them? What am I demonstrating and being the example for? And when you have that intentionality, then you can really be that author of your legacy. You can say, when I continue to be intentional, when I continue to show up for months and years and decades to come, here's what will be the product of that at the end of my life. Here's what will
Mm.
be behind, that I will leave behind, the imprint that I will have left. And I think that's super powerful.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. Great start, Jessica. So let's dive into the work that you're doing today, being an intuitive mentor and inspirational entertainer. For those who are just getting connected with you, because you've been on before, but for those who are just finding out about you, tell us a little bit more about what that means and how you serve your clients.
Sure. So I think I've been my title, I'm using
Mhm.
my air quotes there, has changed a little bit because there was really, like, as I've been more intentional about my life, and as I've gotten more in touch with my authentic self and who I really am, and am I sharing my authentic self with everybody, or am I
Mm.
in a place of fear and all of that. I've considered myself to be an intuitive mentor for a while now, which for me is, it's more than just being instructional with people. It's about like holding their hand through the process and
Mm.
saying, you know, this isn't not only what you want to do, but I'm going to be there with you every step of the way. And the intuitive part really comes because I don't always go by the book.
Mm.
I don't always go by, if there was a coaching book that says this is how you coach somebody, I might not go by that. I go by what I intuitively feel in the moment that this person needs, and it's based on that intuition, based on what I've been through in my history, my past, and so I love, as you mentioned in my bio, working with women in particular because they sometimes we get into this space of mothering, and we're
Mm. Mm.
giving all the time, and not just to our kids. We get in this habit of constantly giving and not allowing ourselves to receive, and so that's why I'm really passionate about working with them, because um I think that they need that cheerleader. They need that person to hold their hand along the way and say, these are some good tips, but I'm glad you're here with me because I don't necessarily want to do this by myself.
Yeah.
And then the inspirational entertainer part is something new that I'm embracing because so I've been doing the breakthrough show, as you mentioned, and now I'm doing Project Joy podcast, and I love to tell stories, and I love to
Mhm.
connect with people, and I'm such a people watcher. I like to tell a joke, but it wouldn't be enough for me to tell a joke over the phone. Like, I would have to see your face, and I
Mm.
want to see your reaction when I tell the joke. Like, I
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
because I love entertaining people in that way. I like the kickback that I get from it as well. Like, I like that you think it's funny, and then I think it's funny that you think it's funny, and really the big embracing part for that came in when my cousin Jimmy
Mhm.
was on my breakthrough show this last season. And Jimmy is a no BS. He's a comedic hypnotist. He runs an
Wow.
R-rated hypnosis show in
Wow.
Connecticut, and so I asked him, he's done a lot of different things over the years. He's done magic, he's done hypnosis, he's done where the mind reading type
Mhm.
acts and things like that. And so I'm like, how do you narrow that down? Like, when you meet somebody, what do you say it is that you do. Because like, do you just give him your give him your resume, you just run down all that stuff? And he's like, no, he's like, I just tell them I'm in the entertainment business, and if they want to know more, they ask me more, and then I'll get into some of that stuff. But I when he was said that to me, I thought to myself, I've just been telling myself this whole time that entertaining people is not important work.
Mm. Mm. I felt movies, going to the movie theater. I was like, oh, what a waste of time, and actors and, people are going to escape, right? And they're being entertained. And I had some really negative energy towards shows and things like that. Like, what a waste of time. Like, why are people wasting their time? And I think that there's value just inherently in the skills. They may not be being put to the best use that I would choose, right? Like maybe actors could use their acting skills in much more empowering ways to influence people's subconscious to inspiring stories rather than horror films or dramas or whatever else it might be. And entertaining, that's really shifted for me as well a lot over the years, to go from cut and dry, I got to grind through it, screw entertainment, screw having fun, screw anything that is frivolous, right? Like the childlike self, anything that relates to that, I'm like, no more time for that. Let's get to work. And over time, I've just been like, wow, there's so much missing when I deny that aspect of me and say there's no room for that in my life. And I feel like it just creates a more holistic person when we allow entertainment, when we allow ourselves to be entertaining, choose to be entertaining, and also to be entertained as well. I've really discovered a lot of that, Jessica.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, we're seeing it a little bit more. And the one person that keeps coming to my mind, so for me, the word inspirational is in front of entertainer, because I'm not out to be an actress. I'm not out to do fictional type things. I want real life stuff and to tell stories and things that are going to motivate and inspire people. And the one person that I keep thinking of in my mind is JP Sears, because JP Sears is hysterical and entertaining, but there's a point to the stuff that he's putting out there, And so I think we're seeing that a little bit more. And I also love, when we're on the topic of it, that many celebrities, people that are actors and actresses and singers and songwriters, are not just out there entertaining, they're using that celebrity for a bigger purpose now. They're out there, saying a message and saying how they feel about things. Is it always them speaking and not other things behind that? I don't know. But the point is that it's not just about the entertainment factor anymore. They're really using that platform, and I love that.
Yeah. And like I said, I think there might be an unconscious bias or just like resistance, rejection, fear of facing something that me and I think a lot of people on their spiritual journey can pick up by saying by being so opposed, by energetically being like pushing away, resisting common things like media, news, things like that. I think it's important to know what our values are, know what our what's important to us, and also I think that we live in this universe of duality, right? And if we are pushing so hard against something, resisting it, then we're going to have blind spots and we're not going to be able to see like that whole picture. So I love that you're bringing inspirational entertainment to the table, and like Prince EA, JP Sears, like all these people. It's really, I feel, when you bring that entertainment component to it, it's what's needed to reach the masses these days, because a lot of people are so committed in their ways and like unconscious that they need someone who can meet them where they're at and use modalities and ways of communication, appearing on a big screen in the movie theater, whatever it might be, to be able to reach them so that they can open up their paradigm, open up their consciousness. So I think it's brilliant that you're using these gifts and abilities to the best of your ability. And I know that we wanted to dive into relationships as well as a component of awakening. So let's go back into your journey and talk about what are the specific components about relationships and your own awakening that made a difference for you, so that our audience can get some insight into patterns in their own lives, as well as just to get to know you more and understand why it's so important for you.
Absolutely. So I love this topic of relationships because relationships is not my, like, I'm not a relationship expert. I'm not, my friend Lorianne was on your show the
Yep.
other day,
Yep.
and
Rocked
I
it.
love her. So if you want like like deep relationship stuff, you need to go to Lorianne. However, it wasn't, a lot of people think about relationships in terms of it being a very personal, or let me back up. A lot of people think about personal development and
Hmm.
spiritual development as a very personal solo type of
Mm.
activity. And in a way it can be.
Hmm.
It wasn't very long ago, I think couple weeks ago, I posted on my Facebook page, asking people. I said, I made a statement. I said, personal development and spiritual development is enhanced by relationships. Agree or disagree?
Hmm.
And I had a lot of people commenting on there, and for the majority, people would say agree.
Yep.
And then some people said that they disagreed. Very few people, a couple people, and then some people. I love this. How we can't have anything black or white nowadays. It's got to be like, well, sometimes, Jessica, not all the time, sometimes. And I'm like, well, of course, I don't mean you should do no work by yourself on your
Right.
spiritual and personal development, but if it, I just to put it bluntly, I don't think God put us here to be alone.
Mm.
If you weren't born alone, we're not on this planet alone.
Mm.
You're not like, and I don't mean that you need to be in a like a partnership,
Yeah.
but to be alone as in not to have a circle of people
Yeah.
around you that are doing life with you.
Yeah.
Um, I
And
just
and
don't.
Jessica, I want to like just cherry on top, coming out of the womb, if babies do not have that motherly touch within, the first week, 2 weeks, whatever, they can literally die because
Yes,
they don't have that connection. And it's so vital to the development of us. So it's like,
right.
if we need it in that really critical stage of development of a baby being born and being nourished, like, why would we stop needing that at any point? We might not need it as much, but to completely say something that was so necessary in our birth is now, we've transcended that, and we don't
Mm,
need it in the human experience. I think that's silly.
yeah.
I think you're totally right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that tie into that. I think, as we're growing up, society and our parents sort of prepare us for being on our own, for,
Hmm.
going out into the world alone, kind
Yeah.
of. And it gives that idea that we're supposed to be completely self-sufficient all the time and we
Hmm.
don't need anybody else. And many of us grew up in that way. It wasn't, it was this, you're growing up to eventually do everything on your own. And we
Mm.
sort of forget that to give the importance of relationships in our lives. And like I said, when I say relationship, I don't just mean love relationship, I mean friendships, I mean
Sure.
colleagues, I mean all these different things. So I just think it's really important, and I love that I mean, it's just foolish to think that we need it so badly when we're little, but we don't need it at all when we're an adult. I don't get that. And so if it's important,
Yeah.
and if as a baby we could die if we don't have that connection with somebody else, then why wouldn't it be important in an area such as personal development and spiritual development as well?
Yeah. Yeah. And, something that comes to my mind, Jessica, as we're talking about this is when I think of enlightened spiritual beings, right? I think of them going and meditating in a mountain somewhere and achieving enlightenment because they've just stayed so deep in their state of isolation, in their state of meditation, so that they can achieve that sense of enlightenment. I think that is an image that is placed into our mind of how to achieve enlightenment, and I think it is a path, right?
Mhm.
It's almost like the most extreme. There's a pendulum that's the most extreme, to go far away land, isolate yourself, spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day meditating. It's almost like, I think it's conditioned into us in social media, people who are teaching spirituality even today, to like prioritize that kind of a spiritual transformation. And I think
Mm.
there's like a portion of truth, a piece of truth in there, but I also think that the reflection of other human beings who can trigger us, who can help us work through blind spots and things that we like. It's like the ego is the personality that sees things this way, and this way is right. And I think that if we stay attached to that, it'll create suffering. Attachment creates that suffering. So other humans who have a completely different perspective, or at least a different one, may not be completely different, but humans have that ability to reflect to us what is actually what is operating the show. If I take a second and zoom out and I'm looking at this conversation and this dialogue between us, what's happening? How am I feeling? How's this person making me feel?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love that you're talking about it reflecting back as well, because there's five specific reasons that I believe, and there's others too, but there's five specific reasons why I think, relationships are vital to our spiritual and personal development. And I would love to share those with you.
Let's dive in. Let's go.
Let's dive. All right. So number one, we kind of talked about it a little bit briefly with the beginning stuff, but because it's more fun. Because it's more fun. Yes. I mean, for me, like, you're talking about the people going for spiritual enlightenment up in the mountains by themselves or whatever. Yeah. I have to think that they're at some point they're like, man, I am just bored. And it's not to say there's anything. I mean, being bored sometimes is good for us because we have to get creative. But
contrast.
Right. At some point, I have to imagine if it was me. At some point, I would be up there and be like, "Listen, I need somebody to talk to right now." So it's more fun. It's more fun to engage with other people. Like I said, for those of us that are like me, that are like people watchers, I love to see what other people are doing and sort of being in everybody's business. So, so that it's more fun. So number two is that it allows us to be more connected to everybody, everywhere. Yeah. Because you think about 6 degrees of separation. So everybody knows somebody and then knows somebody and then knows somebody. And when you are in relationships with people, you're really connected to the whole world, and it allows you to see things from different perspectives. It allows you to better form your own thoughts and opinions about your spiritual development, about your spirituality or your own personal growth. And so it really just allows us to be connected. And I love that, through social media, we've all been able to expand our network, and get to know even more people. So it helps us to be connected. That's number two.
I want to focus on that as well. I feel like that's a really powerful connection piece, of reflection piece, because we recognize that we're all in this human experience, right? We're all connected. And if we want to live a fulfilling life, I think it's super important that we recognize that everything I do to this person or think about this person or judge about this person, it's going to be reflected back into me. And so if we recognize that, like, how I'm feeling about this person and the thoughts that are coming up in my head and what's happening in this interaction, it's like, I'm responsible for that. I'm creating my reality. I'm generating this experience. And it almost reminds us how powerful we are, because we're like, oh, these thoughts are happening in my head, but what am I doing about them? How am I being responsible for them? And so I think it's like taking back that power, and just being connected and remembering who we are in individual conversations or in groups or things like that. I think it's super important.
Yeah, I mean, and we're all in our little bubble too. Wherever we are. And I know you traveled recently, and anywhere I've ever gone, it's like, if I've gone to a new place, I'm just always so blown away, because I live a specific way, and I every day I see my surroundings and my town and my city and everything else. And you used to, have had to actually go to these places to experience, and to see that life is different. But really, again, with the social media, when we're connected to other people the way we are now, yes, it's still amazing and great to travel and go to these places. But if you didn't have the opportunity, you could talk to somebody else and, from completely, like, get on Zoom like this with somebody in China or, Indonesia or, Australia or anywhere, and get a sense of what their life is like. And it really just, it's so nice to just be connected to other people, because we get sort of shoved out of our bubble a little bit.
Yeah.
and realize that you're not the only person on this planet, and your little town that you live in is not the only place in the world, and people do things differently elsewhere.
So if someone comes to you, Jessica, and they have this like perspective that they feel like they're disconnected from people. They feel like they're not like being with people. They don't feel that sense of like brotherhood and sisterhood and like being a part of each other, and they feel like disconnected. What would you recommend to those people?
You've got to sort of put yourself out there. And I know that a lot of people lean into the introvert thing. Right. There's all the things that go around about being an introverted extrovert, or an introverted extrovert, or an
Yeah.
extroverted introvert. They say a lot of different things. Look, if you're saying like, I feel disconnected and I need to feel connected,
Mm,
whether you're an introvert or not, you've got to find a way to put yourself out there a little bit.
yeah.
For me, there is zero excuse with the with the amount of social media that we have, and local meetup groups, and all of these different opportunities now.
Mm,
There's no reason to not be connected to somebody.
yeah.
And then really the other part of that is, if you have a very small circle and you want to expand your circle, if you want to connect with more people, just ask people who they know. Like,
Mm.
who do you know that like some of the same things that I like? Or I mean, that's a good place to get started, and have them connect you so that you can, create a relationship with them as well.
Beautiful. I love it. So it's really just putting ourselves out there, just making an effort to reconnect, to tap into our small circle that we might already have if someone's feeling, disconnected. I think it's the basics, it's the small steps that a lot of people take for granted. And it's like if we do those small little things of appreciating someone or saying have a great day or things like that, we won't feel so disconnected because we're like, I'm making an effort to be connected. And so I think that's some people may or may not see the value in that, see
Mm.
the drive, like why should I message someone every day? But I think in this conversation, whoever's listening, like just really ask yourself: do you want to be more fulfilled? Do you want to experience more joy, more magic, more love in your life? Do
Mm.
do you like the quality of life will improve? And I think you've probably heard this before. There was a study that said what are the top regrets of the dying, and one is to like not have worked so much, another one is to spend more time with loved ones and friends, another one is to not care as much as what people thought about us. So it's like that one where it's spend more time with friends and family, that's at like the top of people's dying regrets list.
Mm.
So it's like if those people have the most perspective, the most clarity on life and what means the most to them, I think we should listen to that and start to make more effort today to reintroduce that into our lives, or to at least amplify it even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think that's part of why I'm very passionate about this topic, is because, I've lost many, 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 many loved ones, especially over the last 10 years or so. And like people that I was very, very close to. And I have those moments where
Mm,
I say, I wish I would have said that one thing, or I
yeah.
wish I would have spent a little more time, or um, I'm in. I grew up a lot of my life with my grandparents, who were very important to me, and those are two of the people that have passed away in the last 10 years. And as I sat down to do like some of our family genealogy and a lot of other things, I have those moments where I'm like, God, I wish I would have asked them that question, or
Mm,
spent a little bit more time to get the backstory behind some of this stuff. But
yeah.
I think relationships really, it brings me into my third point, which
Mm,
is that relationships make life easier in general. It's the saying of two heads are better than one. You could can we sit down and do a project or do whatever we want because we're strong empowered people by ourselves? Yes. But is it nice to have that person to bounce things off of, to
yeah.
help carry some of the load, to yes, it's awesome. And
Mm.
why, it lowers our stress levels. It does a lot of amazing things for us, just to those relationships making things easier.
Mm. Mm. I love it. So the first one you said again, the first point was fun. It's more
Yep.
fun. The second is to really be connected with people and have that experience of connection, being around people. And then the third one is it makes life easier, makes it more enjoyable, so to speak, and simpler, faster, less stress, less anxiety. I think feeling alone is what causes so much struggle, and especially the suicide epidemic that's happening. It's because a lot of people just feel so disconnected, and they feel misunderstood, and they feel like all this anxiety and stuff that they don't know how to express or share, and just stays bottled up, and they keep trying to push it down, or they keep trying to deal with it themselves, and they just get to the end of their rope and they don't know what to do.
And I want to point out too with that, by relationships, I'm talking about actually making the effort. I'm not talking about friending someone on Facebook and never talking to them. That's not
No.
creating a relationship.
No.
It's, because that is the sort of thing that I believe adds into that feeling of feeling alone. Like I had such a crazy last year, end of last year. I really was not feeling well, and I looked at my friends list, and I was like, I have 1,000 people on here, and some people are at their max. Some people have to delete people are at their 5,000 person max on Facebook, and I have 1,000 people on here, and I don't even talk to them. Like, I don't even know who half these people are. And I made this post, and I was like, listen, who wants to talk?
Mm.
Who wants to have a virtual coffee with me? And it was just crazy to me. How many people couldn't find the time to take 15 minutes to catch up and just say, how's life for you? And have a conversation, and how many people just couldn't make the time for 15 minutes. And I hope my connection is okay. It's saying it's not.
It's
okay. So, we need to make the effort. We need to make the effort, not just friend people. We need to actually talk and message. If you're really serious about making genuine connections and having actual relationships, you need to reach out,
And it's so interesting because, Jessica, like my own journey, I came from this place of, I think it's scarcity, really. It's like scarcity. It's not enoughness, insecurity about myself, where I'm at on my entrepreneurial journey for years, saying like, I need to work more, and the priority was not connecting. The priority was not building relationships for the sake of loving people and being connected with people and seeing how I can serve, how I can share my gifts. It was more of, yes, I want to create win-wins. I want you to benefit financially. I want me to benefit financially. I want to prosper in business. I want to grow my income. But the conversation quickly became, when I was struggling, saying, well, if it's not a conversation about business, is it worth it? Is it worth it to invest the time and the energy? And I think a lot of people are struggling with that. And I'm just super grateful at this point. I have a massive commitment and drive to grow my business. And also I say, hey, who are the people who I've had a great connection with? Who are the people who are, who love me, who support me, who encourage me? How can I go back into those relationships, reconnect, shoot them a message, say, hey, how's your year going? Things like that. And just it's the small things. And I can't reach everyone. I'm one of those people with 5,000 friends on my friends list. I don't talk to all of them. But what I can do is take one step at a time and have that energy and commitment and knowingness that I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm going to go make an effort this week to reconnect with people, to see how they're doing. And it's a constant process. And I think for people who are struggling with that, something I did is I said, okay, I'm going to make a goal. I'm going to put a metric to it, right? What gets measured gets improved in my experience. So I'm going to say I want to connect with 5 people, and whether it's about business or just hearing what they're doing or whatever it might be, like that would be a great bar to set, or even 3 people or 1 person this week. I think if someone says I don't have enough time to connect with 1 new person this week, and three is just impossible, 5 is impossible, I think really look at your priorities and look at what's going on, and like with you juggling 6 kids, right? And you still connecting with so many people, like there's no excuses if it's really important to stay connected. And I think that there's so many benefits long term when we plant those seeds and nurture those seeds of the relationships, not necessarily wanting to get something in the long term, but just knowing, hey, if I just show up and I'm great with this person, I love on this person, I encourage this person, I find out how can I serve, then everything else works out.
Yeah, and I want to add to that as well, because even if you're someone, if you're listening to this and you're sitting there like, listen, I don't have time to be sitting and just having a coffee with no expectation with, whoever I'm talking to, my calls have to be sales calls or whatever it is that you believe in your head. I want you to just question that. I want you to question that, because I had a call the other day with a good friend of mine, who they told me that they sat with their partner, and they were coming on. I run a Saturday morning social time called Saturday Coffee, and
Uh-huh.
I've been doing this for a while. The names have kind of changed a little bit, but it's literally 30 minutes on Zoom, BSing about things that make us feel good, like life, how's life going, what did we learn this week. There's no real structure to it. It's just like, if I come across something that was a great lesson, I might bring it up, and that'll
Sure.
roll our topic along, or whatever, our conversation along. And so this person shared with me after the call. He was like, so me and my partner were talking about this, and he was like, why are you going on this call? Like, what's this 30 minutes that you're spending? And he was like, I don't know. Like, he was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, and I really don't know the value. And then he went on to say, I am so glad I came,
Wow.
because I needed that time. I needed that connection. I love you. And just all these different things. And he's like, I honestly, if you weren't messaging me going, hey, you need to show up because this is important, I wouldn't think it was important. And so you have to, sometimes you might sit there and say, this 15-minute call with somebody to figure out how their kids are doing and what they had for dinner, it doesn't mean anything. But you don't know that until that conversation could turn into something that you have no idea. That relationship could turn into something. You just don't know what the purpose is for someone being in your life. And I don't believe that we are connected with people that don't have a purpose. There's some
Mm.
purpose there somewhere, lesson or
Yep.
or learning or friendship or relationship, whatever it is,
Mhm.
there's something there. And so I would ask everybody that's listening to just question it and show up anyway, just a couple of times, and say, are you going to have calls that feel like, I can't believe I just sat here for 15 minutes? Maybe. But if you don't do it,
Yeah.
then how do you know?
And I think that there's a skill in being present with people and
Mm,
making the time valuable regardless of if we financially benefit, right? It's like
right.
we don't have to get anything out of it except for being witness to someone else's soul, and their expression and what's going on with them. Like, I find the greatest joy for me comes when I'm just listening to people and they just get to share and they just get to, talk, and whatever comes up, whether it's about business, whether it's about life, whether it's about philosophy, something that's important to them. I love to just be there and be curious with them, be in exploration with them, and
Mm,
like find out what does this person care about. And if we
mm,
just listen to that, and the ears, two ears, one mouth kind of thing, if we just listen twice as much as we talk,
yeah.
I think there's so much benefit that comes from that.
Yes, for sure. And I think it ties in beautifully to my fourth point.
Bring it.
If you are sitting there and are not finding the value,
Mm.
and you say you're talking to someone and you're trying to create a relationship, and they say something that makes you just cringe
Mhm.
and say, oh God, this is not my person. Relationships are a fantastic mirror. That's my number 4. They are a
Mm.
fantastic mirror. And I want to elaborate for just a second on that, because when I first heard that about relationships, and because I had something that had gone sort of awry in a relationship, and I was worked up and I was pissed off and I was all in my feelings about the whole thing. And the person and someone someone else said to me, well, relationships are a mirror.
Mm.
Okay, so first of all, when you're when you're in your feelings about it, and you don't want to hear that,
Yep.
because it's like, what do you mean they're a mirror? I'm not like that.
Right.
And so what I came to realize though is that mirror doesn't necessarily mean you and what you're seeing in them is what is in you.
Mm.
It means, because so I think about when I look in the mirror, and sometimes I might look in the mirror and I may not see, I may not like exactly what I see, but then
Mhm.
I can do something about it.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that what you're seeing is who you are. It's what you're seeing is giving you the choice to say, is this who I want to be? So
Boom.
I just want, for anybody that's ever heard that mirror
That's
term
good.
and cringe like I did, I just want to put that out there, because it doesn't, it's just the choice. It's the choice to say, okay, I want to be like this in my life? What is this bringing up for me? You talked about that before. What things is this person bringing up in me? Why am I reacting this way? And it makes
Mm.
you think. So I love that the relationships in our lives can be a great mirror, especially when it comes to spiritual and personal development.
Yep. Absolutely. Beautiful. So that's the fourth one. What's the fifth one, Jessica?
Number 4. Number 5 is, this is going to be a great one for all the entrepreneurs out there, is that you are more likely to achieve your dreams and goals and desires if you have these relationships.
Mm.
Those relationships are going to, if you've really nurtured the relationships and had those conversations and become close in whatever, whatever aspect that closeness can take place, whether you're a friend or a colleague or what have you,
Mhm.
um, that you will succeed. When I did my Project Joy podcast, so when I was talking about the word of the year, I
Mhm.
gave 3 tips for when you choose your word of the year, like how to be successful. That you don't just choose the word and say, well, we'll see you in 2021. How to be successful at the word of the year. And number
Mhm.
1 was to set goals and intentions often.
Yeah.
And number 2 was to have relationships that can hold you accountable,
Mm.
because though you can say to someone, that you've created a good relationship, I want to do this, can you hold me accountable for that? And because you've nurtured that relationship, because you have that close relationship, you will trust that they will say to you, listen, you said you were going to do this, girlfriend, and you dropped the ball.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're dropping the ball, like, let's turn this around. And the third part was to kick your own rear end on a daily basis. And so it really, like, yes, you need to do things yourself, and yes, you need to be committed to what you're doing, but having those people there to say, let's do this together, let's go, to be your cheerleader, to hold you accountable, you're going to be much more successful and at anything that you do if you've got those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely, Jessica. I feel that having someone there it's essential. It's like it's more of that feedback. It's bouncing off ideas, and then when we commit to something, then it's like, okay, like how committed are we? Well, we go and do the thing, or we don't do the thing, and then that person who we shared it with, who we said, "This is what I'm doing. I promise you, I'll do it." This is what I'm going to do. You just declare it. That person is like someone in our subconscious mind that we know we have to go see again, right? Have to go face that person again, and if
Hmm.
it's important to us and they're important to us and they understand it's important to us, then they're going to ask, how was it? And so there's a psychological effect that has to remind us, like, man, I got to go talk to this person again. I love this person, and I'm going to have to see them again. How am I going to show up in that conversation? Am I going to say, oh, I didn't do it, I made excuses, da 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 da? There's like a fear of social rejection, of getting banished from the tribe, whatever, if we didn't do what we said we were going to do. So there's all this like kind of inherent human experience motivation to like be with people and perform successfully and go after our goals and achieve them when we say we're going to do it to people. And one of the other things that came up for me while you were talking, Jessica, is the ability to serve others with their goals, right? Like I think that should be number 6. It's like the fulfillment that comes as a human being making a contribution to someone else and like really helping them achieve their goals. Like I think that's even more fulfilling than achieving our own goals sometimes, like
Yes.
often, probably more often than not, like we want to serve and contribute and like see people's faces light up because they had a breakthrough because they achieved their greatest dreams and goals, and knowing that we supported them in that, I think is so powerful.
And every single one of these is a two-way street. For
Yeah.
those of us that are very service minded and want to change the world and want to leave the world better than what we found it, any of these, you can think of any of these things that I've said as a two-way street. So
Yeah.
it's not just more fun for you, it's more fun for them. It's not just connecting you, it's connecting them. It's not just making life easier for you, it's making life easier for them. It's not just a mirror for you, it's a mirror for them. And that one right there can check you too, because if you know that someone their relationship with you, that you are their mirror, how are you going to show up then?
Boom. Boom.
That's an ouch for a minute. So if you're going to succeed, they're going to succeed. So any of these is a two-way street. And so you can really feel good if you're showing up and creating these relationships and nurturing these relationships. You are not just helping yourself, you're helping them too, and by extension, ripple effect the whole world.
Yeah. So how does the relationships that we've been talking about, these 5 keys, how does that really intersect with the intuitive mentoring that you do, and how you're serving people today and empowering them and helping them become their greatest possible selves, Jessica?
So I had a group for a couple of years, a free group on Facebook called Illuminate Your Spirit, and the way that the group started was actually like I wasn't doing anything other than like intuitive readings at the time. So I wasn't doing anything like motivational. I wasn't doing coaching, wasn't doing anything like that. It was just a safe space for me to be able to offer readings for people. And that's it. So as the group grew and we got to a few hundred people over time, I never really promoted it big. It was very organic. And I wanted that from the beginning. But I did the same thing with the group. I looked at the group and I was like, there are 300 people in here that don't talk. There's no actual relationships happening, and that's just not it kind of goes against what I'm preaching a little bit, which is to have these relationships. And so I stopped the group. couple months before the end of 2019, I closed the group. And that was a little bit painful for a minute, because from a business mindset, like you want the biggest audience you can get to hear about your products, your services, your all of the things that you have going on. But that wasn't, if you're not getting the results that you're looking for, then something's got to get there. And so I think sometimes I was like, oh, I can't believe I did that. But I closed it and I reopened it again as a group with a very, very low fee, to not just to, first of all, to have that energetic commitment, like to say, okay, like I'm here to interact, to meet people, to be a part of this collective, and not just sit here and not interact with anybody and all of that. And it sort of it's a container for all of my knowledge. So I've got units set up in there where people can go through things that I love about meditation and about stress relief and essential oils and all of the parts that I feel like really contribute to to good spiritual and personal development. But I'm also creating a space where we've got new posts coming in where people can actually, like, let's find some similarities here and create relationships. And like, I seriously want you to send them a message, like send them a message and meet for coffee, or whatever it is that so because you can start with that, what's similar between us, and then move on to other things. And when you nurture that relationship, then you can say, like, listen, I'm trying to do this meditation thing, but it's just not working out. And then she can say, well, I'm trying to do that too, but it's not working out for me either. Like, how can we help each other? Let's or it's working for me and it's not for me. What tips can we have? And to allow the relationships to push you further and to help you and be a better person. And I think that that's the group that we have right now. Like, everybody that's in there is just, I mean, they're doing their thing, and I'm excited to see. It's a brand new space, so I'm very excited to see the relationship aspect really grow over time. And I made that clear about the group from the beginning. Like, if you're going to be in here, it's to have these relationships and to
Mm.
have you benefit on your spiritual journey with these relationships.
Yeah, I love it. I love the intentionality of going from, hey, this is just another group on Facebook
Mm.
to, hey, this is a group where serious, committed, fun-loving, like hungry for growth, hungry for spiritual growth and connection, collaboration, where these types of people show up, and just to show like your commitment to this process and not just being another group that falls by your wayside. Like here's what happens. Everyone who's a part of this is required to invest is just a little bit, or like tiny little fee, right? To say, hey, this is important to me. Like I want to put a quarter in the ride to go because
Yes.
I want to have this experience, right? I want to go on this ride. So I love that. I'm curious from your perspective as the host, as the facilitator, as the person running the group, what do you see is a big intention for you, or focus, growth edge for you in 2020 to make the group successful, fulfilling, impactful, and really uplevel your own hosting, your own facilitation of people getting what they came for?
I think for me, I need to, first of all, keep showing up as I've been showing up. Um, like I said, I've been doing that Saturday coffee for a while,
Yeah.
on Zoom. And, we do it at 8 in the morning, my time. So it could be real early. Like if that's 6 o'clock for you, Chris, so it could be real early for a lot of people. It could be midday for
Mm.
folks overseas, and it could be the next day if you're in Australia. I mean,
Yep.
it could be different times, but we show up on there with pajamas, and there were times when I first started that I literally sat there alone. I
Mm.
sat there alone for the whole half an hour, and I did that because I truly believe that what we do, we're creating the space for what they want, what we want. So if we're showing up, we have to keep showing up. And now I have people that come every week, and I have people that consistently come every week, and some people just pop in when they're not doing something else, but they're coming in. And so I want to keep showing up, but I also want to continue having conversations like this about the importance of relationships,
Mm.
and really what it's doing for you in a lot of different areas of your life. It's not just about, you think that these conversations about your kids and what you had for dinner and what your plans are and what your dreams are for, you may think that that's just wasted time. But
Mm.
my goal is to really get that across to people, that it's so not, that it's so much more than you realize it is, because there's so much going on subconsciously when we have these conversations, when we have a hug, when we get it, when we have a relationship. You were talking about when Lori was on, the different hormones
Yeah.
that happen, and there's so much going on that we just don't even realize. That I just want to get that message across. And I think that when people start to show up and they come to a coffee, and like my friend said, like, I didn't think it was going to be worth my time, and then I'm so glad I came.
Yeah.
That's what I want to continue to see.
Yeah, I love it. I think the challenge is it's when people show up and they're like, I had that amazing experience. Like, I'm so grateful I showed up. And then they go back to life. It's like, it feels, for me, what I've experienced is it's easy to forget and get caught up with life, the busyness of life again,
Mm.
So it's like, I think for me, what I would focus on as a facilitator is how can I keep casting the vision and keep standing for the value of this till people till it's secondhand, till it's second nature. And it's like, I have to be on this call because I know the value that it provides. It's like, how can we educate people on that process? How can we continue to add value off the call, saying there's more on the call, so come back to the call, like really in between the Saturdays especially, but in between connections and things like that, how can we continue to stoke that fire and remind them of the value? I think that's super important.
Absolutely. And I think too that it's just it's really important to just show up. To
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
to just show up and give it a try and put yourself out there, and don't be, I think a lot of people are intimidated by this Zoom thing, by this video platform. I'm like, it's no different than if we were in the grocery store and I was like, hey,
Right.
come,
Right.
let's sit down at the Starbucks over here and have a conversation. Like, don't be so afraid of that stuff,
Mm.
and because you got the option too to shut off your camera. You got bedhead, you're ashamed of that, you can just shut off the camera. It's no big deal, but just show up. And I
Yeah.
and I just want to, just, it's so important to have these relationships, and you just never know where it's going to go. You
Yeah.
never know where a conversation is going to lead, or and if we talked about being service minded, you may not get something out of it, but what did the
Mm.
other person, it could have been everything that made their whole day.
And I think that's like the question of the context, the definition of getting something out of it, right? I think that's simply practicing gratitude for everything as it is, exactly as it is, right? It's like to expect it's going to be a different way, to expect, oh, this person's going to connect me with someone or bring value to the conversation. That's when we get in trouble. I feel like that's when it becomes difficult. That's when our joy is taken away versus being in wonder. I wonder what could happen in this conversation. And I think we're also the creators of that experience as well. How are we going to intentionalize, supercharge the conversation, saying, I want to find treasure in this conversation, find buried treasure that like we never would have thought about or experienced before jumping on this call, but because I'm setting that intention, it's going to happen. I want to, illuminate a piece of this person's life so that they can feel healed, they can feel alive, they can go back with renewed vigor. I want to find something that's a win-win and some way that we can keep growing together, a reason to stay connected, a reason to check back in with this person in 3 months, and maybe you find out that they love model airplanes just like you, or they have a 3-year-old just like you. It's like you find those things by setting that intention.
Yes, all of that.
Yeah, love it. I love it, Jessica. Let's start wrapping up the conversation. This has been a lot of fun. I love the 5 reasons. In terms of enhancing our spiritual growth, is there anything that we haven't yet touched on that relationships can provide for us to grow ourselves, to awaken, to empower us on the journey of life?
Yes, I would love to share just really briefly. I put out a 2020 outlook for this year,
Okay.
and in that outlook, so I had drawn a card to an oracle card to help with the outlook, and I want to show it to you because it is
Ooh,
gorgeous.
acceptance. It is beautiful.
Gorgeous.
That
I
is so
mean, there's
beautiful.
just so many. I mean, we could have a whole hour show about me picking that card apart because there's so much goodness there. But
Yes.
so you see in the card that there's 2 hands, different hands
Yeah.
for different reasons. I'm reaching out to each other, and really the biggest message that I have for this year is, in previous years there's been so much focus on networking and expanding and more people, more people, more people. It's
Sure.
been a very gathering sort of energy.
Quantity.
Yes, quantity. And this year, it is really about the quality. It's about collaboration with the people you already have in your circle. It's about going deeper, getting to know them further. I would love to be able to say that every person that I interact with on a daily basis, I know how they take their coffee. I would love to be able to say that. Go deeper, find out about them, know what their heart is, and all of that. And the third thing is having very clear boundaries about your relationships as well. If you, when I did those calls, with different people, I had a couple people that were like, look, this talking about your dinner thing is not my jam. Like, if we're going to talk, we're going to talk business, or we're not going to talk. And so just being, if people have those boundaries, that's fine. But to know that those are there. And if you have expectations for the relationship, it's okay to have expectations for the relationship, but you need to express them. If the other person is not a mind reader, I don't care how intuitive you are not a mind, you don't know always what the exact thing is somebody else is thinking. So so you need to express that to them and say, look, this is what I expect from our relationship. And I will say straight out, like when I accept people as friends on Facebook this year, like I'm looking for actual friends this year.
Yeah. When I accept someone new, I'll message them. I'll say, hey, how's it going? Da da da. If they don't respond, I'll respond back again. I'll say, hey, did you see my last message? If they don't respond again, I'll say, okay, I wish you the best, but I only have room for people who are actually going to have a conversation with me. Yeah. Thank you. Bye. I'm here if you the door's still open if you want to come back, I've found like I have to remove my ego from it that like makes them wrong. It's like, how could you not respond to me? What is wrong with you? It's like, it's okay. They're on their journey. I just want to let you know these are my boundaries, right? And putting those in place up front. I think it's important for all of us to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really important. And it's we just have to be clear about things, and it's okay for you to have your own boundaries too. Mm-hmm. It's okay for you to say like, listen, this person is not my cup of tea on a personal level. But I really feel like, whereas it was like, okay, we're going to drop them and just keep gathering people. I just don't feel that energy for this year. This year is really the people that you've met over the last couple of years. You've met them for a reason. Go deep or forget it. Like, figure it out and have those collaborations, go deeper with the friendship, and make sure you express your expectations for the relationship.
Yep. I love it, Jessica. How do people stay connected with you? What do we want them to do next?
They can visit me at jessicadugas.com, and that will lead you pretty much everywhere. It'll lead you to the Breakthrough and Project Joy podcast, which I hope everybody will listen to. It's like really short podcasts of Monday mornings to give you that, like the tagline says, a triple shot of good vibes. It's just me telling little stories. I have my first guest on this coming week, which I'm really excited about because I love to hear stories from different people. What brings you joy and why? So it'll give you some good vibes to start your week. And if you're interested in the Illuminate Your Spirit Community Collective, you can email me, jessica@jessicadugas.com, and I will hook you up.
Beautiful. I love it, Jessica. You are a powerhouse. For everyone listening, watching right now, go to www.jessicadugas.com. That's JESSICADUGAS.com, or send her an email, jessica@jessicadugas.com. Find her on Facebook. She's doing amazing things there. And thank you so much for the love that you're sharing in the world, Jessica. Thanks for being a great mom. Thank you for just being an amazing connector, amazing human being. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me on the second time.
You're welcome. I'm sure it'll happen again.
We'll do it.
Awesome. Have an amazing rest of your day, okay?
You too.
See you soon.